Hi, ladies and gentlemen. It's April 16th. I did a couple of shorts this morning, kind of a quick update on what I was feeling about this Boston situation. And now it's time for a little long one here, try to catch up on some other things. But I want to say, first of all, that, I know trolls exist. I know that bots exist. I know that fishers exist on these different sites, and there are people out there with agendas, and we all have an agenda of one sort or another. But I just want to say this, and I'm sure most of you know where I'm coming from here. I really don't have any agenda other than freedom, liberty, the principles of the Bill of Rights for every single individual, every single human being. I'm not out for power. I'm not really getting anything for this. I'm trying to impart information to people using my background and experience to try to make a difference. And I think most of you realize that. Most of the time when we get attacked with name calling, things like that, it's usually somebody who's doing that out of desperation. They don't have another argument. But really, when it comes down to it, I really have no ulterior motive. I have no other agenda other than, like I said, trying to promote truth in government. Thomas Jefferson said something, and I always do this, but I want to read this because I think it has some applicability to what I'm saying today about why I do this. And this is what Thomas Jefferson said, and it's as true today as it was then. Actually, it's even more true today. Here's what he said, quote, "Free government is founded in jealousy, not confidence. It is jealousy and not confidence which prescribes limited constitutions to bind those we are obliged to trust with power. In questions of power, then, let no more be heard of confidence in man, but bind him down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution." Throughout history, even with good intentions, once a man or anybody, woman, whatever, gets power, they start to seek more. The principle of growth is as important to government as it is to an infant that's trying to prosper, trying to thrive. The problem with government is it gets to the point where it's self-serving. It's not there for the people. It's there for itself. And that's what we have going on today. So I wanted to say that. No, we are not to trust the government. We are not to have confidence in the government. We are to be jealous of the power of the people. That we set up the government to serve us, not vice versa. And the Constitution was designed to chain them down, the government. And the Bill of Rights was there to not give us rights, but to say, these rights are unalienable. They are self-evident. And the purpose of our government that we're instituting here at this convention in 1770, well, I guess it was 1789 at that point, was to ensure the government will protect these God-given rights, that they're not privileges. Big difference. So where does Boston fit in with all this? Well, when you see it in the media, and I've said this before, the mainstream media, the entertainment industry, the statements by DHS, the Department of Justice, the Southern Poverty Law Center, all of these things going on, identifying, conservatives, Christians, gun owners, Tea Partiers, Ron Paul supporters, veterans, and the list goes. I told you, that they would start expanding these terrorist definitions. They started off with a dozen or so in the 1980s when I first went through the terrorism counteraction course, and I told you that even then there were definitions in that time period where so many, at least 50%, if not more, of the American people could fit into one of those definitions. Now it's even higher. All right, so imagine, they're now saying that the army is saying that Christians are bad, and that the army's going to have to drill to take their weapons from them. You know, demonize the Christians like the Nazis demonized the Jews. Well, we've gone through all of that before. But how does this tie in with Boston? Well, you know, no matter who they finally pin this on, and I saw one lady write in, and very rightly so, she says, you know, they're throwing all these things out there to see which one will stick in the minds of the people, and that's probably the one they'll run with. And I have to agree. Okay. The bombs, as I've said a couple times now, I believe, were not typical Al-Qaeda weapons. All right, they just aren't. And no one's taken responsibility. Okay, at this point, if this had been a true jihadist, you know, assault on the Americans, there would be somebody out there taking responsibility for it. Unless, of course, they're CIA or government backed in one way or another, or if they're just plain criminals. And I made that point in that last video on who's responsible. Or maybe they're just trying to get out of the country right before they take responsibility. Yeah, you know, I don't think they think ahead that far. Sorry. You know, they don't think ahead that far. No. You know, dying for your cause is considered, you know, pretty important for those supposed jihadists. Unless they're actual criminals, okay? Which is a whole different ball game, and I made that point. Be it an American criminal or, you know, a criminal from another country. But there are so many telltale signs here that point that even if it is finally blamed on supposed Al-Qaeda, and you know that I realize and I talk about the fact that Al-Qaeda was a CIA and British intelligence creation in the first place, and if you know history and if you know what has happened with our intelligence services over the years, you'll understand that history, and it's no surprise to you. If they do pin it on them, the results will pretty much be the same as far as the rolling out of the TSA on the streets, more military, more infringements on your rights, on and on and on and on and on. When I looked at those, I did do an analysis of those explosions, and it was pretty much evident at the time that, like I said, they weren't particularly complicated. They were pretty simple, and the extent of the damage, you know, as the explosion occurred, wasn't particularly, impressive. With the pellets that were inside, I didn't know that at the time from looking at the videos. We know that now, but one thing that did seem pretty obvious was that it was some type of a combustible, possibly a cellulose based nitroglycerin gunpowder, something like that. And apparently that's the case that they're saying now, is that it was a gunpowder bomb with the pellets inside the pressure cooker. So that's pretty low down. I just don't see Al-Qaeda doing something like that, or a lone jihadist. I just don't see it. But the bottom line is that even if it's pegged on them, it could still be a government operation. It could still be a false flag. And I would say that the indications are there for that, for all the reasons that we've talked about already. And of course, anything that you're listening to from other people that are willing to tell that side of the story. The government's side on the fact that they're saying there was no drill now and all that kind of stuff is pretty much shown not to be the case. But, you know, they have the microphone, so they're going to say what they want. At a time like this, it's getting the people who don't think for themselves and get them on their side. Okay, so we've had a lack of groups taking responsibility, which is almost as much of an indictment that it's either a lone criminal or the government, okay, because these groups that are out here for these ideological, religious, political reasons are going to want to take responsibility. So more than likely, it's going to be, like I said, either a criminal or the government in some way, shape, or form. One thing it is not is Tea Partyist, conservatives, gun owners, constitutionalists, because they are not going to hurt the American people. That's not what they're going to do. They are not going to target citizens. That's absurd. It's ridiculous. Okay, so I'm just saying that up front. Whoever, if Tea Party, if this thing ever came down to a shooting war, they're not going to be hurting people out on the sidewalks or in the movie theaters or those kinds of things. That's just not how they think. They have a little bit better military objective understanding of things than that. Okay, I did hear, and I don't know all the circumstances now. If you all listen to Alex Jones at all, you'll find out that one of his staff, Drew, I think is his name, has a brother-in-law who was a U.S. Army military intelligence officer that was in the marathon. And this guy, I guess, is quite an athlete. He runs, 26 miles several times a week, I guess, training. They pulled him out early in the race, just before he got to the finish line, saying that he had evidence of dehydration or symptoms of dehydration. Now, this is a guy that trains, okay? Pulled him out of the run prior to him reaching the finish line, and the bombs went off just a few minutes later. Military intelligence, his unit, his people, pulled him out so that he would not be in the area when the bomb went off. I haven't got all the information yet, but that's one of the many, many things that are going on here that look really suspicious. I'm not going to get into a cartoon I heard about, although it's probably very true, because the NWO likes to give you, little hints of things that are coming. I'll just tell you, it was supposedly on Family Guy. I did not see it. I just heard about it. I guess the guy that plays the main character in the cartoon joins the Tea Party and then goes and bombs the Boston Marathon. That was on, I guess, like last week. Maybe some of you guys have seen that. I haven't, so I can't vouch for it either way or the other. Another possibility, and I thought I'd save this one for now. I said that there was some internal strife in the government, different parts of the government pulling at each other, and I really can't give you the motivation or the actual objective in this case, but it is possible that there are elements in the government that are vying for positions of power and influence. And who would that be? Well, like I said, the CIA, the Pentagon, elements of the White House, the intelligence communities. We have a government that's dysfunctional right now. They want to help fix families, supposedly, by pulling them apart primarily, but the government's totally dysfunctional. The only thing it's good at is threatening you with their weapons to get you to pay them money. It's really all they're good at anymore. Which brings us to the next problem, okay? And I'm going to break this up. I'm going to do this one, then I'll do another one in a few minutes and load it up later today. But this is where things get dangerous, okay? Now, if I was on the BBC this morning and Al Jazeera, because they're not talking about it that much in the American news. As a matter of fact, I don't think you can find it. The Chinese have moved to a position where they're accusing the U.S. of destabilizing the Asian Pacific Rim. I think it was about almost a year ago now, maybe not quite that long ago, the U.S. sent troops to Australia. Okay, of course they're coming up under the Chinese underbelly with this war on Iran and that kind of thing that they're trying to get going. So China sees this move going on them, and now they're accusing the U.S. of destabilizing the region. They're saying that increased U.S. pressure has started on them, and they're concerned about it. You see how this thing can spin out of control? North Korea, we're not hearing much right now. They've been making some threats to the South, saying that they're going to start a war here any day. Well, they've been saying that for a few weeks now, but I think it's still possible. These false flags and things that are going on are just starting. A lot of people, they can blame them on when they get really bad. When you start seeing really professional things going on, it's going to be pretty serious. But See, that's why I say we got to look at what else is going on in the world, and this thing with China is kind of important. By the way, I don't care whether, you know, the FBI or the DHS or the government or whoever says that you know, they found a suspect, or it's this group or that group. Just remember, government lies. They will lie when the truth would serve them better. Okay? So I'm not just going to ease back and say, oh, okay, they figured out that it's this person or this group or whatever. Frankly, I'm still going to look at the bigger picture. You know, they lied to us about 9/11. They lied to us about Waco. They lied to us about the Oklahoma City bombing. They lied to us about Iraq, about Afghanistan. You know, I mean, I could go on and on. All right, and if you don't know about those things, maybe you should look into them a little bit more. I think most everybody who's listening to this channel and similar ones know all those issues. We are being hit on so many fronts: financial, international, domestic, economy, wars, rumors of wars, on and on and on. You know, multiple pronged attacks. Well, what does that mean? That means that our enemy is so well funded that they have no single point failure. Okay? In other words, they haven't put all their eggs in one basket. They'll get us one way or the other. That's why there's so much going on here right now. So, you know, this whole thing with Boston could play in on that too. It demoralizes you. It makes you feel insecure, that you don't know where to turn or what to do. One thing's for sure, government can't protect you, and the dogs there didn't even sniff all that presence of police and all that. They didn't even get, you know, any whiff from those dogs to help them find those bombs. This is an example. All right, well, I'll cover some more here in a little while. Give you a break here. I know this is kind of jumping around a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to, I guess, let my my brain relax a little bit and just kind of chill out, but not let anybody think that I'm ignoring the issues that are going on right now. Okay, we'll talk to you again in a little bit.